Hello, my name is Quan Wan, and I would like to welcome you to the WebLogic Day. This is a shortened version of the physical event that we used to host. Like the previous years, the WebLogic Day has been delivered as a virtual event since the pandemic started 3 years ago. The WebLogic Day is an opportunity for developers, IT professionals, and organizations to come together and learn about the latest innovations in WebLogic Server technology. Through this event, we hope to keep you up to date with the latest developments and for you to gain a deeper understanding of how to maximize the value of WebLogic Server for your organization. So whether you are a WebLogic expert or just starting out, this event will expand your knowledge and skills in the use of WebLogic Server. Or you might just be simply looking to modernize your WebLogic Server with a cloud-native approach. And this will be covered here as well. Okay, here's the agenda for today. We are going to start with a product update and roadmap for WebLogic Server and the Oracle Cloud-Native Java stack of technologies. Magic Risker, who runs the external product management team for WebLogic and Cloud-Native Java technologies, will be presenting this today. Then we have Dave Cabellas, who will talk us through how you can modernize your WebLogic workload by managing it with Verrazano, an enterprise container platform. Adrian Padilla will then talk about the latest update of the WebLogic for OCI technology. He will share with you some case studies why customers have chosen WebLogic for OCI. And in the last session, we have Monica Riccelli to talk about running and managing WebLogic workload in containers. She will also introduce the latest capabilities of WebLogic Kubernetes toolkit. So we have a very packed agenda and a lot to share with you. Since we only have 2 hours, we have pre-recorded these sessions in order to keep the event within the tight time frame. But the speakers are here with us live to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, you can post them in the Q&A function within Zoom, and they'll be happy to answer them. Without further ado, I will let Magic start with the update and roadmap. Magic, over to you.
Hey, welcome to the session about WebLogic Server and Oracle Enterprise Cloud Native Java update and roadmap as a part of our Asia Pacific WebLogic Day. I'm very glad and excited to deliver this session for you. My name is Maciek Gruszka, and I work in the Oracle development team. I run the product management team responsible for outbound activities dedicated to customers and also to internal users of WebLogic. I'm really glad and excited to share with you the roadmap update, and I hope you will enjoy the session as well. So WebLogic Server today is being developed together with few other technological components. So we have a single development team that is right now building a few products together. Those products are realizing our strategy to provide a solid technological foundation for your Java applications, runnable in the cloud as well as on-premise. Oracle WebLogic Server as a leading application server for Java EE and Jakarta EE applications is probably well known to every one of you who is joining today's session. I'd like to brief you also that WebLogic is being developed together with Oracle Coherence product. That is like a distributed data grid component that allows you to cache data close to the application layer and perform and process some business logic directly on the data components that are residing in a cache. We have also created two open source components or software elements that are fitting very well into the strategy of designing modern environment for hosting Java applications in enterprises. We have a Helidon microservices framework. It's a Java microservices framework that allows you to host and run and build microservices built in Java. Helidon itself is free of charge. We distribute it as an open source component, totally free. However, we provide a commercial support for Helidon to several different entitlements, and all WebLogic customers are having an access to commercial support for Helidon. We also have a Verrazano that is an enterprise container platform. It's a platform for managing lifecycle, provide observability, and securing the containerized applications running on a single or multiple Kubernetes clusters in a hybrid environment, in a multi-cloud environment, or a single cloud environment. About Verrazano, we have a dedicated session in today's agenda. So I will be briefly introducing that product, but I'm not going to go in deep with Verrazano presentation. All these products are supported on Kubernetes, and they are supported in the cloud. They provide deep integration with Oracle Cloud Services. They are very well optimized for Oracle database. They are foundation for many Fusion middleware components. They are foundation for applications built by Oracle. All of them provide new releases and innovations constantly to the market. We have a very expanded roadmap for every single component, so they have future. So they are focused on to solve current and future application needs. If we look into what is the main goal of providing enterprise cloud native Java products, you probably need to look into that slide. Our main goal and priority for all our project and Oracle development surrounding WebLogic and all other component is to enable customers to allow them build and deploy applications in containers that are focused on traditional Java EE/Jakarta EE applications. So Jakarta EE applications run as a containers is a priority for us, as we try to enable customers, provide a tooling that converts deployments from the virtual machines into containers, run them in the Kubernetes of their choice. It might be on-premise, it might be in a cloud, it might be in Oracle Cloud. Once these applications are deployed to Kubernetes, we want to give to customers ability to expand them with a microservices delivered and built with a Helidon infrastructure that allow customers to leverage the same APIs that they were using in the on the Oracle WebLogic Server. And for this traditional microservice applications, we want to provide to customers a unified management layer that manages these applications across multi-cloud, multi-cluster environments, with also support for the very common additional runtimes like Spring Boot, like Micronaut, or like Node.js, or any type of polyglot applications built with GraphVM. Let's move into details. Let's check details of this environment to check what we provide as a part of our enterprise cloud native platform products. Let's start with WebLogic Server. WebLogic Server is a foundation for Fusion middleware for Oracle applications, runs in the cloud, still provides an unmatched performance on the market. We are very proud of the transactional engine that is embedded in WebLogic Server. It provides exceptional backward compatibility for the deployments. We have many customers that are running, I would say, identical application. They were running in version 9, and they move it without any kind of significant upgrade issues up to version 14. We provide an exceptional support for Oracle database. We have a unique layer for communication with a real application cluster. It is called Active Grid Link for RAC, that provides unmatched performance and is leveraging on the application tier many unique RAC features. We have a support for additions, addition-based redefinition, It's a new capability in WebLogic we introduced with version 14, so customers can match the versioning of the applications with the versioning of schema called additions, and can integrate those together to achieve a real version-based redeployment of application. We, of course, provide as an out-of-the-box integration with coherence, with an ability to delegate to the coherence layer the say transactional behavior on Oracle database. We are very much focused to provide a standardized server that is following standards, that is implementing standards, and I will have a slide that is showing a different Java EE, Jakarta EE versions. Currently, we are supporting Jakarta EE version 8. We are allowing customers to run on different JDKs, and we have a roadmap that gives customers even more in the future, more JDKs to choose from. We provide exceptional management layer. Many customers that are running it in a that provides daily operations, they saying that the scripting language of WebLogic called WLST is unmatched tool on the market. Ability to automate the day-to-day operation to WLST is something that they cannot see on the competitors. WebLogic is well known from existing console. Many of you are using WebLogic console. We also have a new remote console, the new ability to run out of the context of the admin server, standalone desktop application that is like console that over REST interfaces communicates to this admin server, and console that takes care for making management and monitoring on existing WebLogic domains. WebLogic also is having diagnostic framework, allows to diagnose and profile the behavior, and allows you to check and tune embedded kernel, and embed self-tuning is providing for customers self-tuning threat management system, so customers don't need to take care for lower level tuning of the threat in the WebLogic server. WebLogic is very well known from high availability feature. Probably each and every of you know about clustering capabilities, but WebLogic also introduced recently dynamic clusters, ability to grow and shrink the clusters depending on external conditions. It works very well on a Kubernetes layer where you can combine it with the infrastructure auto-scaling feature. In WebLogic, we provide official recipes how to design disaster recovery setup. Our cloud marketplace offering allows you to design disaster recovery scenario with an ability also to have a hybrid disaster recovery setup. We provide tooling for migration from one VM-based environment to another VM-based environment, or from VM-based environments into the cloud. The utility called WebLogic Deploy tool that provides that capabilities is being used by more and more customers. WebLogic with version 12.2 also introduced new patching framework or new patching utility called ZDT, zero downtime patching, that allows you to achieve, ability to apply patches without losing service for your customers. So once you apply patches to the ZDT mechanism, generally admin server orchestrates a workflow and applies patches to the servers one by one. So in the entire cluster, you never lose service availability. And we invested a lot into the ability to modernize WebLogic applications into the containers and to Kubernetes. We invested a lot into many open source tooling that simplifies adoption of Kubernetes, that allows you to efficiently operate a WebLogic WebLogic as containers in the Kubernetes cluster that provide a lifecycle management, that provide migration capabilities. Today, during the WebLogic Day, we will be having a dedicated session about achieving ability to modernize WebLogic workloads into the containers and into the Kubernetes. So if you are particularly interested about that topic, stay tuned and stay with us up to the end of the WebLogic Day. If we look into the what market is saying about WebLogic Server, if we look in the independent users review at analyst side, then like Gartner, G2, TrustRadius, PureSpot, still WebLogic Server is #1 on all of them. So we are still perceived as a leading application server vendor. I wanted to put a few words about coherence before we go into details. It is important to understand that coherence is playing a key important role as a leading and memory data grid component. We're providing several capabilities to partition data across multiple JVM, provide a querying, transaction, eventing. We also provide an ability to automatically and asynchronously update cache based on the database entries. So once you update a database, not through the cache can be notified and can receive asynchronously updated data to modify the cache entry. That functionality called hot cache is probably one of the leading capabilities for efficient designing caches on transactional applications with the web interface. We provide several integration with Helidon. We provide integration with Spring. We provide integration with Micronaut out of the box. It runs in containers. It runs as a Docker images. It allows you to run in Kubernetes. And recently, or maybe it's more than a year ago, we open source the core functionality of coherence and made it available as an open source community edition. So even if you are not commercially licensed for coherence, nowadays you may take advantage of coherence in your several modernized applicational projects. WebLogic and coherence are providing a single life cycle of the releases. So we have right now a 4 version of the products available on the market, supported in different stages. We have 2 versions that are on sustaining support. It is so-called Fusion Middleware 11G and Fusion Middleware 12, in a meaning 12C, 12.1 version. So WebLogic 10.3.6 or WebLogic 12.3 are already on sustaining support. We don't support them with an error correction. In the case of WebLogic 10.3.6, we do provide a market-driven support. So customers who hasn't migrated from 10.3.6 to the newer versions, they expect to get security fixes, are able to sign up for a market-driven support program. WebLogic 12.2 is under Premier support. 12.2.1.3 as the one that is ending the error correction very soon, as in June this calendar year. But 12.2.1.4 will provide an error correction support through Premier and extended support up to the year 2028. Version 12.2.1.4 is version called LTS, long-time supported version. So customers that are looking for a version to upgrade to that is providing the maximum long support timeframe, 12.2.1.4 is for you a good candidate. We also provide a version 14.1.1. Version 14.1.1 is like a first our version in the Premier and the 14 major line. It was GA'd in March 2020. It provides an ability to run Java 11 applications inside WebLogic. And this version will have a next minor release. The minor release of 14.1.2 is expected to be available this calendar year. and we expect to ship it together with entire Fusion middleware set of products. So version 14.1.2 that is designated as a LTS release is expected to be available in calendar year 2023. And please be aware that once this version is available, we will reset a support timeframe, and customers that are running 14.1.2 will obtain full 8 years of error correction for that version. So there will be, and generally it means there is no expected version 14.1.3 on the market. So this is the roadmap for versions available now with premier or sustaining support. One of them is on the market-driven support. Version 14.1.1 that is on premier support will end error correction in 1 year after 14.1.2. So it is good for testing out the innovations, but it's probably not the best version if you're looking long-term support release. If we look about the changes we done for WebLogic recently, probably I would like to highlight security improvements. We are running for WebLogic ongoing program with preparing security patches every quarter. It is a program called PSU or CPU. We are updating constantly lockdown guide. We introduced through the recent changes in WebLogic Server a new production mode. It is called secure production mode, that is by default turning on some security features. We simplified the way how you are able to apply patches through the new mechanism called stack patch bundling. We give you an ability to block unauthenticated T3 IOP access to your server that might be a cause for many security vulnerabilities. We provide additional security validation of your configuration in WebLogic console, and we implemented several new improvements in the patching mechanism in the OPatch to satisfy the, I would say, scanners, like deleting vulnerable jars physically from the file system. All the security best practices we adopt in our cloud services in WebLogic for OCI and OKE. We will be having today a dedicated session about WebLogic Server for OCI and OKE as well. I also would like to bring some reasons why customers are moving to the Kubernetes. Kubernetes is definitely our way to go. Our path forward to provide modernization and support for customers in modern architecture. We believe customers can reduce time to deployment application, then can provide a super rapid way of applying application updates. They could simplify patching. They can build in automatic high availability that correlates with high availability of the infrastructure. They can achieve dynamic scaling capabilities and can design replication and disaster recovery setup. We will be having a dedicated session about WebLogic and Kubernetes today, so I don't want to go into the details of what kind of tooling we are having there. WebLogic is available in Oracle Cloud. We have a marketplace solution called WebLogic Server for OCI that is like a preferred and recommended way of deploying WebLogic to OCI. Customers that are using that marketplace solution can either use existing licenses through BYOL program, or they could use universal credit pricing for subscription for licenses and support. We simplify the provisioning layer through either a Terraform or graphical user interface. We provide integration with several OCI services, and we give customer flexibility of versions and flexibility of types of deployment, like a JRF versus non-JRF domain. For forms and reports customers, we also provide recently some update in WebLogic Server for OCI. So they are able to take advantage of our newest forms provisioning. And we also provide some integration with a Cloud Manager functionality for popular Oracle package applications like EBS and JD Edwards. WebLogic for OCI is 100% compatible with what you're getting on premise. We also have a marketplace solution for Kubernetes deployments. It's an analogous service, but as generating configuration in containers in Oracle managed Kubernetes environment. Again, provides the same benefits about licensing, the same benefits about simplification of provisioning. All our tools that we distribute, our Kubernetes toolkit, all our best practices, how we deploy to containers, we somehow implement it with that service. So we give you an ability to quickly and easily provision a Kubernetes-based environment. Even if you consider just to test it out, try it out, probably I highly recommend that service to check how your application might potentially behave in containers. Together with WebLogic for OKE, we provision some Jenkins CI/CD system, so you can, through the pre-configured pipelines, perform and execute some lifecycle operations that are very specific for WebLogic for Kubernetes. I would highly suggest you to stay with us, and my friend Adrian Padilla from the product management will be having a dedicated session about that product. He will also talk about something that we are coming. It is a new management service that we are planning to deliver next calendar year. It's like a management service that is providing for WebLogic customers some kind of lifecycle operation. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about it, and we will give you some preview what is coming with the new upcoming WebLogic management service for OCI that is planned for 2024. Let's move what is planned with WebLogic Server itself. WebLogic Server is coming with a new version 14.1.2. I was saying that. We are planning to adopt Java 17. So Java 17 is going to be available as a part of this deployment. We will be updating this version will come a full Fusion middleware support. There is a public statement of direction document that explains what kind of Fusion middleware components are going to be supported starting with 14.1.2 on the 14 product line. We will be replacing console. I will have a slide about it. We will provide several security improvements. We'll provide a deeper integration with OCI. We will provide more advanced and robust integration with Oracle database. We are planning to integrate WebLogic further with Helidon and other Java frameworks for microservices. And we are providing few more enhancements for Kubernetes as a part of it. Well, Oracle Coherence will take advantage of newly developed features that we are developing as a part of the Community Edition project. First thing that I want to mention for that product line is a remote console. Remote console is going to replace, in version 14.1.2, a traditional WebLogic admin console. Traditional WebLogic admin console is going to disappear in WebLogic 14.1.2. It's going to be a remote console is going to become our primary management tool. So the tool through which you'd be able to perform, monitor, and management operations. It's going to be easy to use out of the box. And we are working still to extend the remote console benefits to all users, so they will be able to have to apply this console not only to 14.1.2 deployments, but also for previous releases. So that would allow also to reduce size of WebLogic images that we distribute to Kubernetes users. And this console will provide out of the box integration with all our Kubernetes toolkit components. With WebLogic version 14.1.2, we are introducing also several security improvements. We are planning to make secure production mode as a default production mode. So the mode that we introduced with some PSU back 2 years ago is going to become right now a default way. We are going to improve the way how we package third-party jars. So generally, we try to avoid several false positive scanner results. We provide support. We're going to provide support for OpenID. We're going to enhance our SAML integration and integration with external security services. This is all coming with WebLogic 14.1.2. Before I finish, I want to make a few words what is called Helidon, what we're doing in Helidon. Helidon as a Java microservices framework, highly performant, highly scalable, very low resource consumption framework based on standards like MicroProfile 5 is being implemented by that, provides out-of-the-box integration with several OCI resources, with coherence, and provide some benefits for WebLogic users. Is going to have probably next year very major release, as we call it, Helidon NEMA. Helidon NEMA is next 4.0 release that takes advantage of the virtual threads in Java, the new functionality that has been introduced with Java 19. It is a feature that allows you to achieve a scalability of asynchronous programming with a simplicity of synchronous code. So generally, synchronous operation become non-blocking operations. That allows you to use a synchronous methodology with developing the code, but you don't need to. And you achieve a benefits of asynchronous development. It is super hot right now on the development market. If you want to have a session about it, we would be happy to provide a dedicated and detailed session. So stay tuned. Helidon NEMA is going to be announced louder on our developer conferences. And also during my slides, I like to advertise Verrazano session. The next session after me, Dave Cabellos will be talking about enterprise container platform implementation. It is like a complete opinionated, secure platform for applications running in Kubernetes, regardless, is it traditional applications or microservice application, polyglot applications running on Kubernetes of your choice in a private cloud, public cloud, or in multi-cloud environment. If this topic is hot for you, please stay tuned and stay with us longer. If there is one slide that I would like to summarize my session, is this one, a slide that shows our priorities. We doing everything we can to enable EU modernization in containers, to move smoothly into microservices direction and provide a unified management across all those environments for any type of Kubernetes. Thank you very much for today. I will stay to answer your questions, and I'd like to pass the voice to the next speaker.
Thank you, Magic, for the informative session. It was very interesting to see where we are going with the WebLogic 14.1.2 and all the innovative technologies to help modernize WebLogic. Okay, next we have Dave to talk about modernizing WebLogic with Verrazano. Over to you, Dave.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining today. My name is Dave Cabellos. I'm the product manager for Verrazano Enterprise Container Platform. That's the subject of what we're going to talk about here today. Let's dive right in. So Verrazano is an enterprise container platform. It really is an enabling technology for customers who are looking to modernize their applications, adopt cloud-native technologies for application development and deployment. And there are a lot of drivers, a lot of reasons why customers are headed down this path. They're really looking for things like business agility, application portability, standardization, right? And standardization means like, let me do things the same way, which means when I do it the same way, it makes it, more reliable, more consistent, and it actually ends up being, it actually reduces the cost of ownership, right? Lowering cost for development, and of course, enterprise security is really important for customers as they move down this path towards, cloud native compute technologies. There are a lot of big questions, though. Even as people move down this path, it's what framework do I use to write new applications? What else besides Kubernetes do I need? What else should I use? How do I keep all that up to date? How do I put decomposed applications back together? I do see a lot of customers looking for things like they want to use a strangler pattern. They want to decompose a current application, but then I still need these things to be deployed together and so forth. And then what about multi-cloud? Multi-cloud is just sort of a multiplier for complexity. There are lots of reasons why customers go down this path and run into bumps in the road or failures. Things like complexity. It's a rapidly changing world, lots of new technologies, lots of doing things differently, right? Portability issues. I want to actually run this application here. I want to run this other application over there. Now I want to actually move them from one to the other, and that becomes a challenge. That's really related to hybrid and multi-cloud scenarios. If I'm going to want to run applications in multiple places, or move them from place to place, how do I keep them up and running? How do I know what's happening over there? How do I manage those workloads and the workloads of the life cycle of the clusters themselves? Security is always a challenge, and of course, multi-cloud makes things more challenging. And of course, there's vendor lock-in, right? If I'm utilizing some technology, some tool chain, and now I want to use something different, vendor lock-in becomes a real problem. That's really where the enterprise cloud native Java team at Oracle comes through. We produce a number of products, including the things you see here: Verrazano, WebLogic Server, Coherence, and Heladon. And all of these different technologies are designed to work well together. They're all supported on Kubernetes and in the cloud. They all integrate with Oracle Database, with Oracle Cloud, with Fusion Middleware, with Oracle applications. They all have a constant train of new releases, and those new releases have lots and lots of innovation. And the idea here is, let's make sure that we're addressing your current needs for application development and where you're headed in the future. And really, all of these things kind of work well together, right? You've got existing applications, you've got new applications you're trying to write, and Oracle Cloud Native Java, Enterprise Cloud Native Java is really the place to be. So let's talk a bit, specifically about Verrazano, right? It's an enterprise container platform. It's meant to help you manage your applications and your clusters across multi-cloud, multi-cluster environments. It does provide some specific value, including things like intelligent workload management across environments. I'll get into the details of what that means, but really think about, I want to make it easy to deploy applications. I want to make it easy to adopt this type of technology. I want to flatten the learning curve for adopting cloud native technologies, and really make it easy to roll out applications by providing automation and so forth. Verrazano provides application lifecycle management and DevOps enablement. It goes above and beyond what just Kubernetes itself provides, especially in a multi-cloud environment. Verrazano is built of a series of Kubernetes custom resources, operators, admission controllers, and so forth. That all of that works together, but it's all set up to be infrastructure as code. So it really makes DevOps and GitOps really easy. Verrazano includes an observability stack that we set up out of the box when you install Verrazano. That includes things like Prometheus, Grafana, OpenSearch dashboards, Kiali, Jaeger. And then we also automate, when you deploy your applications, we automate the capture of metrics data, log records, trace records, and so forth. So really meant to be easy to adopt, easy to deploy your applications. Verrazano includes Rancher as part of the package. It's fully integrated, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes. Rancher gives you the ability to manage your clusters. So, when you're looking at this multi-cluster world, being able to actually manage your clusters from a single pane of glass is really valuable. And then also, as you're managing your applications, sometimes you need to, peel back and take a look under the covers and see what's happening. Rancher gives you that capability. And then, of course, multi-level security. Security is always important with anything that's where you're going to run enterprise software. Verrazano includes Istio. In fact, we set up Istio out of the box when you install Verrazano, and we set it up in a way where we actually require mutual TLS when you deploy your applications. You can opt out, of course, but out of the box we're secure by default. When you deploy your applications, we make sure that those applications are wired up and ready and secured. And then we also ship with Keycloak as an identity provider. We protect Verrazano components using Keycloak. You can use it to protect your applications as well. You can use it to federate to other identity providers, for Verrazano and for your application. So good stuff from a security perspective. And then all of this works the same way across and on multiple different cloud environments, right? So the idea here is I want to use this common platform, no matter where I'm going to run my applications, no matter where I'm running my clusters. It is built from a series of familiar open source technologies. We take these technologies, we really try to take the best of breed, the things that work the best, the things that are really popular among our customers. We make sure that the versions all work well together. We test them together. We actually take the source code, we build from source, we scan for vulnerabilities, and then we provide all of these container images with the stuff around that makes it work well together, including platform operators and application operators and admission controllers and other custom resources that make all this work together as a platform. Platform itself is designed to run traditional applications like Oracle WebLogic applications, other Java EE applications, Oracle Coherence. It's also designed to run Java microservices, whether that's Helidon, Micronaut, Spring Boot, just straight Java, GraalVM. It all works really well on top of Verrazano, and then even non-Java microservices like Node, Python, Ruby. It all, if it's in a container, we can run it on top of Verrazano. And then Verrazano, like I said, is designed to run across Kubernetes clusters and across cloud environments, whether it's on premises, whether it's in Oracle Cloud, other public clouds. And this is truly meant to be multi-cluster in a sense, where you use a single pane of glass to manage, monitor your clusters and your applications running in those clusters. Verrazano is available in a couple of different ways, right? It's all developed in open source, so you can use it like any other open source technology. We do include an entitlement in WebLogic Suite. So if you have a WebLogic Suite license, you can use Verrazano for the same place that you're licensed for WebLogic Suite, and get support from Oracle. And then, of course, we do provide an annual support subscription for Verrazano that includes, not only the platform that I just talked about, but also it includes support for Coherence Community Edition, and includes support for Java frameworks, including Helidon, Micronaut, and Spring Boot. Well, the idea here is this is the perfect application modernization platform. You can use it to run your existing applications, and then you also get the support that you need to for frameworks and in-memory data grid for when you write your new applications. Right, so this is a one-stop shop for everything that you need. So let's talk a little bit about that, intelligent workload management. So Verrazano, in Verrazano, we've adopted open application model as a standard for deploying applications. Really, the idea here is, let's enable your application developers to write microservices that aren't specific to a particular deployment platform. So you're not going to write them specifically for Oracle Cloud or specifically for Verrazano even, right? They're really just meant to be microservices. And then you enable your application operators to assemble those microservices into an application system. And then as you deploy them into a particular environment, you use traits or scopes to map that application system to the particular environment. So let me show you some details here. So it starts with your components, your microservices. You define them first, you write them, and then you provide this, small YAML file to define the component. And really, it's, you give it a name, you have to define the workload type, and then tell us where to get the container image and how to access when we would deploy this, right? And so I do want to point out here that we've extended open application model with some particular workload types. So this one I'm showing you is a Helidon workload type. So under the covers, we do some special handling for logging and metrics and the actual deployment of the application if we define it as a Helidon workload. We do lots more for things like WebLogic and coherence, and I'll talk about details of that. But this is basically defining my one microservice. And then if you have multiple microservices you want to assemble together, you would deploy them in this application configuration. In this case, I just have one component, but for my application, I give it a name. I list out the components. So in this time, it's just one, and the name is the key there. And then I'm going to apply a trait to it. I basically want to expose this application to the outside world with an ingress. So I'm going to apply this ingress trait. In this case, I'm looking at a path prefix, and I'm just going to use greet. So this is hello Helidon, so greet kind of makes sense. And then here's an extension to OAM. We've actually added placement here. So I'm basically saying not only deploy this set of components and apply these traits, but put it on this particular cluster that I'm listing here. And then when you do that, Verrazano does a lot of heavy lifting, right? Through a lot of automation. So two kube control commands say, kube control apply, here's my component, kube control apply, here's my application configuration. And then Verrazano automatically gets a token, creates a service account, creates an authorization policy for that service account, creates a Kubernetes deployment, creates a Kubernetes service. If you've set up the ingress trait like we talked about, it'll create an Istio gateway and an Istio virtual service. It gets a certificate, puts that certificate into a Kubernetes secret, creates network policies using that certificate, and then updates the Prometheus configuration to then start capturing metrics. We also have FluentD deployed here as a daemon set, so we automatically capture logs and traces and push them to OpenSearch. So again, the same information that you have from your IDE to do deployments, you put it into a YAML file, two kube control commands, and you're up and running, ready in a production ready environment. So secured, lockdown, the whole 9 yards. So we do the same for more complex situations too. So in this case, I'm showing where I've got a WebLogic domain component, I've got a coherence cluster component, I again have a Helidon component, and I've got a generic container component for each of these. So each of these would be defined in YAML, and then I would assemble them in an application configuration. And then when we deploy into Verrazano, Verrazano looks for all those custom resources and says, okay, I know what this WebLogic custom resource is. And in that case, we're going to defer to the WebLogic Kubernetes operator, right? So Verrazano deploys the WebLogic Kubernetes operator and the coherence operator under the covers by default. And then we defer to that operator. The operator creates the WebLogic domain as a custom resource, creates an admin server and clusters of managed servers if your domain calls for it, deploys the applications within that WebLogic domain, and then Verrazano picks up from there and creates the ingresses, creates network policies, and so forth. Same thing for coherence. We defer to the coherence operator to let the coherence operator do its magic. And then we do the stuff that sits around it. Helidon, we've talked about already, generic components, generic containerized components, same thing happens. Let's go forward. So we went from simple, showed you all the automation, a little bit more complex, expanded that automation. And now let's go to multi-cluster. So in this case, I've got a setup where I've got one admin cluster and I've got two managed clusters. So the admin cluster is the cluster that you interact with. It becomes the single pane of glass where you want to deploy your applications, manage those applications, manage your clusters. You can run workloads there as well. It's not just dedicated to administration, but it is the place where you interact with Verrazano in your applications. So we do the same thing. We say, okay, let me create these custom resources in Kubernetes, and then Verrazano says, oh, wait a minute, you want these to be on other clusters? Let me defer to those other clusters. So basically, these are federated clusters. So then the Verrazano admin cluster says, okay, managed cluster, you do this work for me. Those managed clusters do the automation we talked about, deployments, all the setup, and then start sending the observability data back to the admin cluster where you can do your administration. So again, a federated model, it's actually modeled after KubeFed. Lastly, I want to talk about some WebLogic special handling. So we did talk about the deployment time, but then before that, the actual preparing WebLogic, or think about this whole migration to containers and then to Verrazano. WebLogic includes the WebLogic Kubernetes toolkit, which is a series of tools that you could use to prepare your domain for deploying in a container and then also deploying into Verrazano. You use actually the WebLogic deployment tooling to introspect an existing domain. That process results in a domain model and a series of other files, including an application archive, some properties, some binaries file. The domain model is actually a version agnostic and portable view of the domain configuration. So, you could go from, let's say a 10.10.3.6 or 12.1.2 to then you want to deploy into 12.2.1, 12.2.1.3. You can do all of that with this domain model. This WebLogic deployment tooling also generates the Verrazano deployment descriptors that we talked about. It actually puts them into a single file, but they're available as part of this process for deploying your application, converting your application from running on premises to in containers and then running in Verrazano. It also creates this shell script that helps you create the secrets that your application and domain need, right? So you might need JDBC credentials, you might need domain credentials that are part of your domain configuration. So that all gets created as part of this domain introspection. Then you use the WebLogic image tool to actually create an image and push it to a repository. Then you use those files we talked about. You create the Kubernetes secrets and then apply that Verrazano application YAML file. And then Verrazano deploys, takes that container image, defers to the WebLogic Kubernetes operator and deploys the domain and the application. So really it's, again, meant to be really easy to adopt and move your applications from on-premises to containers to Verrazano. So let's actually show you this. So let's go over to the browser. And in this environment, we're actually going to use some examples that are on GitHub. We're going to use, we're actually going to do these multi-cluster examples. And before we even get started, I actually want to do that. I actually want to deploy these applications. So it'll be working while we're talking. We'll let this work. So let's go here. I've got to copy my kube control commands. So I'm deploying this hello Helidon application. So that's the component and the application configuration. And then I'm going to do this to-do list application, which is a simple WebLogic domain. And that actually includes a MySQL database that we deploy within the cluster. So we've done that work, and we're going to let the work happen behind the scenes while it's working. I will show you too that I do have, so Verrazano's up and running. This is the Rancher console that we've extended for Verrazano. I do have two clusters running here. I have an admin cluster and a managed cluster. And if we look at the, again, Verrazano specific enhancements here, I've got a couple of projects that I've already set up. Projects in Verrazano are really a way to manage namespaces across clusters, multi-cluster applications. I've just deployed these now. And then I actually have, I have Bob's books that I deployed a while ago. You can see 8 hours ago, I deployed that. Just in case we want to take a look at something else. But so these multi-cluster applications are just happening. They're really not ready yet. This one might be close, but let's talk about the descriptors here, and then we'll come back. So hello Helidon. This was very similar to what I showed you in slides. This is the hello Helidon component. It's a Verrazano Helidon workload. What I care about here is how do I get to the container image, right? So this is actually in GitHub container and the GitHub repository, and then I know when I access this, I'm going to access this at port 8080. And then if we go back to, this is my application configuration, and this is a multi-cluster application configuration. So again, we've extended open application model with that. So I'm going to list the component. Here's that component I'm going to deploy. I'm giving it a metrics trait. This is actually all default, and we don't even need to provide that. In this case, I am going to provide an ingress trait, which basically says expose this application to the outside world, use a path prefix of greet, and we're going to place this in a remote cluster. And let me go back to, let's go back to the to-do domain one, right? Because this has quite a bit more, right? So this is my components file, and this has, let's see, the first component is this to-do domain, and this is a WebLogic workload, right? And this is actually the domain configuration as defined by the WebLogic Kubernetes toolkit. So this would be generated. I do also have my JDBC configuration that would be used as part of that domain configuration. And then we have the MySQL configuration here. So first I have a config map, and then I have a service for MySQL, and I've got a Kubernetes deployment for MySQL. And that should be the end. Yeah, that's the end of that. So those are the different components that are part of that. And then let me show you here's the application configuration. And you see, so here's my name of my application is here, and then my different components. So first I've got the to-do domain. Again, I've got a metrics trait, and I've got an ingress trait, and this is again a path prefix. I want to get to it with the /to-do. And then I've got my other components that I want to deploy all these components, but I'm not doing anything special for them. They're just going to be there. They're not going to be exposed to the outside world. They're all, kind of locked down within the service mesh. So that is what I just deployed. So if we go back, let's go back here. And if we drill down into Hello Helidon, you can see this pod is running, and you can see it's on this remote cluster. So as I drill down into the pod, you'll see it's actually going to take me to that remote cluster. And you can see this was a container is terminated. We've got two different containers running. One is the Helidon container, the other is the Envoy proxy. And if we go down, if we drill down, we can actually take a look at the virtual services. So in this case, I have two of them. You can see this one is here, right? And if we go here, you can see that's the same one that we have here with the path prefix of greet. So if I refresh this, yeah, I'm using self-sign, so a certificate, so it doesn't like that. But you can see this is up and running, so this is really good. You could let's go back to, and let's see if my my to-do list is actually up and running. So let's go to my multi-cluster applications. And this is the one that has WebLogic plus MySQL. And you can see, yep, it's got the admin server. So this is just a one server domain. Oops. And then MySQL is up and running. So that's great. So now let's go back home and let's take a look at, so we can actually go take a look at Grafana. It is locked down. And let me get my password. Here. Okay. So if we look in, this is a new dashboard that we just put out. So if we're looking at, I'm looking at the remote cluster, right? So local is the admin cluster, and then remote clusters here. We've got a couple of different applications running there. So Hello Helidon and this to-do application configuration. So if we look at Hello Helidon, you'll see, oh, there it is, right? So you can see not any HTTP requests, right? We're not giving these things any traffic, but we're capturing the metrics right away. Let's go back. Let's take a look at a couple more dashboards. Let's look at the Helidon monitoring dashboard. And let's look at this in the last 5 minutes. Because I'm looking at, let's look at Hello Helidon. And yeah, this has been up for 5 minutes. So you can see we're capturing the metrics here, and we can see quite a bit of data here. We also have a WebLogic dashboard, so we can take a look there and see. So I'm looking at let's look at the to-do domain, and you can see that's up and running. It's been up just a little bit. Let's look at the last 5 minutes, and we're capturing metrics for that. Let's also go take a look at OpenSearch while we're here. And if we take a look here and see out of the box, we're now creating these different index patterns. And so we're capturing in the last 15 minutes, we've gotten quite a few log hits here for the system. If we look at the application, you can see, we're capturing some log records there. In fact, if we do, let's search on to do. Yeah, you can see so we're capturing these in the last few minutes. We're getting these log files. So, again, a couple of different cube control commands under the covers. Verrazano does all the automation. We're automatically capturing metrics and logs and so forth. So let's go back to slides. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's coming next with Verrazano. So at the end of September, we released Verrazano 1.4, lots of good stuff there. And then on February 15th of this year, we just released Verrazano 1.5. I'll talk about the new features there. Our plan is to release really every 4 months. We're really on the same cadence as Kubernetes releases. This is, it's all developed in open source as other cloud native projects are released. So we're looking at roughly every 4 months. Our plan is to produce a 2.0 release in June of this year. And that'll be, let's talk about what's coming there. So in 1.5, we've actually done a number of refinements around Oracle Cloud Native Environment and Verrazano integration. New in 1.5, we now include Argo CD for continuous deployment. We've done a lot of enhancements around these Grafana dashboards that I just showed you. And actually, you can dynamically deploy a Grafana dashboard with your application. You can include the JSON for the dashboard, and Verrazano will automatically pick it up and deploy it into Grafana for you. So makes your applications very portable in that sense too. We've improved cluster import. So in a multi-cluster environment, we've made it much simpler than it was in the last few releases. In the 2.0 release, we're looking at a much more significant integration between Verrazano and Oracle Cloud Native Environment. We'll have unified installation and upgrade, unified API and CLI, rancher management for OC&E cluster lifecycle. So a whole lot of work there. That's really the release defining features. We're also intending to include Thanos for long-term metric storage, some enhancements around multi-cluster networking. And then our next release after that, we're intending to include things like Tecton and Harbor for build time use cases, some more enhancements around Verrazano disaster recovery, some edge optimizations, private cloud appliance optimizations, and other non-OAM application enhancements. I wanted to give you some links here of where you can get more information on Verrazano. There's lots of information out there. Again, I want to thank you for joining today. I hope you find it valuable. I really appreciate your attention. And hopefully we will talk again soon. Again, my name is Dave. Appreciate your time. Take care.
Thank you, Dave, for sharing with us on how Verrazano can solve many of the challenges for a modern application and its benefits. The demo was very interesting. I can see how customers can easily manage their containerized WebLogic application on Kubernetes with Verrazano. Next, Adrian will talk about WebLogic for OCI and a few use cases. Adrian, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Adrian Padilla, and today I'm going to talk about WebLogic Server for OCI. I'm going to show you what is the latest updates, and I'm going to mention some customer success stories. First of all, I want to start with a recap of what WebLogic Server for OCI is. WebLogic Server for OCI is an offering available through the marketplace, which allows you to quickly deploy WebLogic workloads on OCI. It also has offerings available to you if you have an existing license and support contract. But if you don't have a license or a support contract, you can also use the paid offerings, which include the entitlement to run WebLogic Server. It's backed up from Terraform Stack, and it's integrated with identity and access management to control all the resources that will be created on a particular compartment. The way you will flow the provisioning of this system is you go to the marketplace, you select the offering that you want to provision, either WebLogic Suite or WebLogic Enterprise, and then you select the compartment where you want to create the resources, and then provide input parameters like WebLogic domain, credentials, VCN, and other features that I'm going to mention in the next slides. When you click provision, the Terraform code will be uploaded to a resource manager instance that is created, and everything is executed from there. This will generate all the resources and configure WebLogic on top of those, so that you have WebLogic up and running in a matter of 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Now, the features that we have been including since day one we deployed this service include multiple services integrations that you can see on the left. But the features that require those services integration are, that you are able to create all the resources for this WebLogic domain, including compute resources, file storage service that you can use to mount in every compute instance in your WebLogic domain, provision of a bastion instance to easily access your private resources. You can create fusion middleware domains, or also known as GRF domains, but you can also deploy plain WebLogic domains. You can choose to create the required OCI policies if you're an administrative user. If you're not, you can provision without these policies and ask your administrator to create them manually with the script that we provide. It is integrated with Identity Cloud Service, so that you can use an IDCS application and use it to control the access of your applications in a WebLogic domain. This is configured out of the box. You can also configure an OCI load balancer that can be sitting on top, on front of your WebLogic cluster applications. Every quarter that we release new patches, security patches, you can get these patches through the patching tool, which is available in every compute instance that belongs to your WebLogic domain. You can export WebLogic logs to the OCI logging service for better management and logging. But you can also configure application performance monitoring. This is very useful when you're configuring auto-scaling, because it allows you to monitor your WebLogic domain as a whole, not just as a compute instance, but as a whole, and take actions based on the workload or the metrics available for the WebLogic domain itself, and not just a compute instance. And finally, we have disaster recovery guides that allows you to set primary and secondary on OCI regions, or the latest edition of this disaster recovery guide, which is the hybrid disaster recovery guide, which allows you to have a system, the primary system outside of OCI and the secondary system on OCI. This is really great when you have an on-prem system which is running WebLogic. You have the license for that, but you don't have enough licenses to cover for the secondary side. So this way you can pay for the entitlement support to run this secondary system on OCI. And this can also be used, obviously, as a migration pattern. Now, what's new? If you want to always take a look at what is new, because we are almost every month we are delivering new features, you can go to the link on the documentation site for WebLogic Service for OCI and see the additions that we have added since day one. today I'm going to show you the latest from December last year, and these are the ones. So first is, in the past, if you want to get the code from Terraform, because this is something you can do, you can customize your environment pretty much. You had to provision WebLogic Server for OCI from the marketplace. And once it was finished the provisioning, you were able to download the stack and then make changes to it, right? Today, you can go to the GitHub project on the Oracle Quick Start in the OCI WebLogic Server project and get the code directly there, right? We have uploaded all this code because we've seen a lot of customers wanting to customize the Terraform stack so they can create custom environments, you know, that we're able to even reuse the existing code for auto-scaling, for provisioning, and so on, and they were customizing these scripts on their own means to get the desired configuration. This making the code available on GitHub also promotes the collaboration for these customers, so they can report issues to this stack and easily create pull requests if they want to contribute or just report the issues. But they also were able to fork the repository and make changes, you know, in an easy way. This stack that we are publishing on the OCI WebLogic Server GitHub project on Quick Starts is the exact same Terraform stack that you will get if you provision from the marketplace. Actually, we're using it from there. Now, another improvement that we have done is that with the time we have included new features like auto scaling, share file system inclusion in every worker and in every managed server and so on. And this UI that is that we can create on Resource Manager has been getting more complex and more complex, and it was having a lot of sections. So recently on December, I believe, we added a section at the top that has all the features that will expand sections on the bottom. Depending on your selection, you will be having more sections on the bottom to fill out the details. But for example, if you choose to provision a load balancer, you select the checkbox there on the top, and then on the bottom it will show you a section for providing the details for load balancer. If you do not select provision with load balancer, you will not see that section, simplifying you know, the provisioning process to fill in all the properties required. If you select auto scaling or APM, you will see those sections as well. We have finally added network security groups to the support of the Terraform stack creation. This allows you to create a much better granular way to control the access to your virtual cloud network. These network security groups are the recommended way to control the traffic in VCN, and these are compatible with security policies that were used before. It's just that security policies are applied to the entire subnet, and network security groups are applied to a particular resource. So this way you can have a public subnet and a private subnet, and within the private subnet you will basically control the traffic using different network security groups for the different services. So you don't have to really split those into different subnets, but it is completely up to you. This is still compatible with splitting between multiple subnets. Also, we have added some changes to the patching utility that is available in the WebLogic Server for OCI and WebLogic Server for OKey. These patching tools includes now a middleware path option, which if you use, you will be able to choose different installation paths to patch different binaries if you have multiple versions of WebLogic or whatsoever. You will also be able to see the latest option. In the past, if you list the patches available on the patching utility, you will see that the list was growing every quarter, because every time they were releasing patches, the list was getting getting larger. Today we have this option that will show you only the patches from the latest quarterly patch, the latest CPU patches. Now, if you don't know if you already applied the latest patches, we have included the diff option. This will allow you to see what patches need to be applied to which particular middleware home. And we also added the rollback option in case you applied a patch using the patching utility and you want to roll it back. This option is to roll back patches applied with the patching utility only. And finally, we have added forms and database components. In the past, there was only Fusion middleware, ADF and so on, WebLogic patches and coherence patches. But today we have also included these components, forms, and database. And the reason we have included these new components is because we have released a new WebLogic suite for OCI image to deploy forms applications. If you may wonder what this is, WebLogic Suite for OCI includes all the entitlements that are included, or all the features that are included in the WebLogic Suite license. And this WebLogic Suite license include Internet Application Server Enterprise Edition, which includes the entitlement for forms. So many customers who were looking to consume forms with universal credits were looking to this image and provision this image and then install forms and create forms environment to pay as you go for this forms instance. There is already a very good form instance that is available on the marketplace, but this is only available as a bring your own license. So today what we have done is to enhance the user experience for these WebLogic Suite UCM images to provision forms in a much better way. If you have ever used the Oracle Forms BYOL, you will realize that it's pretty easy to get forms installed on those images. It takes you, when you log in the first time using SSH, it will ask you for, what database do you want to use. It supports autonomous database, it supports OCI database, even supports a local database that can be installed, for the RCU schemas to support forms. And then it basically configures the forms domain, restart the compute instance, and the next time you log in, everything is working, right? In WebLogic Suite for OCI, in the past, you had to install the GUI. You need to install the forms binaries, and you need to get the patches through a different mechanism. Today, everything is going to be working much easier by using this new WebLogic Suite for OCI version. The way you have to select it is you go to the WebLogic Suite image, not the stack, WebLogic Suite image. And then on the versions, you will select the one for forms that are for a WebLogic Suite, the WebLogic standard image that contains the binaries and support. But this new offering is going to be labeled as a forms image. You select it, and from that point on, it will be the same user experience as the Oracle Form Services BYOL. Now, to make it even more attractive, on last December, we have adjusted the price of WebLogic Suite for OCI and WebLogic Suite for OKey. These adjustments represent almost 35%, and even more than 35%, decrease on the current price. In December, you were paying 72.27 cents per OCPU per hour, and today you pay 46 cents per OCPU per hour. This is the price list, independent to the different discounts you may have for volume discounts. And this is applicable to all WebLogic Suite offerings for OCI. The government SKUs, the WebLogic Suite for OCI SKUs, and WebLogic Suite for OKey SKUs. And it's effective, and it's available to you to consume since December 9, 2020. Now, I want to show you some success stories from our customers. And the first success story that I want to show you is for Charles Taylor. Charles Taylor was founded in 2015, and it provides technology-enabled solutions to help global insurance business. They deliver SaaS insurance solutions to their group and to insurance companies so they can transform their business. One of their products is INSYS, a policy administration solution. The main feature of this product is that it is highly configurable. Business analysts can easily go and configure any kind of insurance product using INSYS, as it is an agile and scalable digital insurance solution. Charles Taylor uses various components of OCI. The INSYS product is classic application in which WebLogic Servers is on the front and Oracle Database is on the backend. And it is integrated with multiple third-party applications using Oracle Integration Cloud. For their topology, they have separate WebLogic servers using WebLogic Server for OCI and what they are calling the InSysGen application. This is where the final user logs in and perform actions. Then there are web services applications that are deployed on WebLogic Server and are used by Oracle Integration Cloud. And when OIC or Oracle Integration Cloud gets requests from third-party applications, all of the orchestration and transformation is handled by the OIC layer, and OIC makes all calls to these web services applications. When Charles Taylor implements any policy management system for any client, they can sell it as a SaaS offering, so they will implement in their own tenancy, or it can be implemented and hosted on the client's tenancy. The benefits that Charles Taylor has observed by using WebLogic Server for OCI are the following. The first time to market. They used to take multiple days, even up to a month, to deploy one application. And by using WebLogic Server for OCI, remember that you can provision WebLogic in minutes. They take to deploy their full application just a few hours, not even days. They also observed how easy it is to move workloads. By using WebLogic Server for OCI, they were able to lift and shift on-premises to OCI, which is their ADF application that was using GRF, and without making any changes to these applications. Given that WebLogic Server for OCI includes scaling capabilities, they can scale also their cloud infrastructure as their business grows. They start small and they can grow and scale as required, and they will only pay for what they use. They are using only paid offerings, which means they don't need to acquire new license or anything. Everything they use is going to be billed according to their business growth. And they have able also to reduce cost. And how they have done that? Well, they realized that that their dev and test environments doesn't need to be available 24 hours a day. So what they do is to automatically shut down these environments and make them available again in the morning. This allows them that all the night they will be saving cost in infrastructure and in WebLogic cost. Given that they have also multiple customers, they see a lot of benefits to separate WebLogic environments into separate compartments, which helps a lot in use cost analysis. I believe that Charles Taylor is using really great the features that are available in WebLogic Server for OCI, and they are getting a lot of benefits with it. Now, the next customer I want to mention to you is TEPSCO, which is Tokyo Electric Power Service Company Limited. This is an affiliated company of Tokyo Electric Power Company Incorporated, which provide consulting services for electric power industry. For several years, TEPSCO provided and maintained an on-premises expense reimbursement application for each of the overseas branches. This application required overseas employees to send physical copies of their expense vouchers documents to the head office every month. The head office accounting department was processing all the vouchers monthly, and they used to receive around 800 expense reimbursement applications for overseas every month. So when TEPSCO did an evaluation of cloud vendors in the space, because they decided to move to the cloud this application, they decided to standardize on OCI because they already utilized several Oracle products, and everything makes sense, right? They use WebLogic Server with Oracle database to get the best performance of both worlds. And the benefits by moving this to the system to the cloud was that the implementation of this cloud-based application took only 3 months, and it was all done by TEPSCO. So TEPSCO is really an expert on defining and executing his own IT work, but they have a partner called Full Energy, and they have a lot of expertise with WebLogic Server. So when TEPSCO and Full Energy worked together, they were able to deploy the infrastructure component with WebLogic Server for OCI, and together deployed this reimbursement system in 23 office branches in less than 6 months. And since 2021, February 2021, this system has been fully operational and it's very stable. The new cloud-based application was deployed using WebLogic Server for OCI. In particular, the new graphical user interface, which is now web-based, remains exactly the same. This way, TEPSCO didn't have to re-educate their system users. They are also using IDCS, and this provides them to have a secure access control for customers or clients who are trying to send expenses from outside of the office, because this is now cloud-based, so they have used IDCS to protect their application. This IDCS allows them to request multi-factor authentication when the employees are working from outside of the office. And when employees are working within the office, they do not require the multi-factor authentications. So employers, their employees no longer need to go into the office to submit expenses or send vouchers, and they can securely send these electronics from home, from an hotel, and upload just from their system. And you know, the expense reimbursement system has been increased pretty much since then. What it was taking for the previous system to take around 3 days to set up PCs and then ship to the offices so these employees can submit expenses. Now it's done in a matter of a few clicks, and it's just done in minutes. And they are saving a lot of money because every time that they had to apply changes or updates to the system, they had to work independently with any of these 23 branches. And now they just manage everything completely from WebLogic Server for OCI. And this task has been completely eliminated, saving a lot of cost and time. The next customer that I'm going to talk about is called USC Company Limited. This was established in 1970 in Japan, and it is a system integrator. Its main business service is Charlotte, which was launched in November 2016. Charlotte is a cloud solution that bridges the gap between the public and private sectors. It connects personnel payroll systems such as PeopleSoft and automates the government electronic application system, data conversion and submission work in Japan, which is required for application operations, which multiple banks in the financial industry. The Charlotte business service currently boasts over 700 customers. Now, companies in Japan that employ individuals are required to submit labor-related applications and notifications related to social insurance, labor insurance, etc., to multiple relevant government departments and agencies. For companies with multiple or many employees, this work is heavy burden, and in many cases, the related work is carried out with the support of a social insurance labor consultant. Charlotte was deployed to solve this particular issue. Charlotte system simplifies the electronic application process for Japanese social insurance. The laws of Japanese social insurance are frequently revised. For example, the law was amended 109 times in 2019. Because of this, USC concluded that it was best to provide a unified service in the cloud versus an on-premises system to eliminate patching altogether when the social insurance laws are revised. USC has been using Amazon Web Services, and they did a comparison with WebLogic Server for OCI and using WebLogic Server running on Amazon Web Services. At the end, they decided to use WebLogic Server for OCI and Oracle database for their scalability and security and price reasons. WebLogic Server for OCI is used for developing application user interface, processing logic, and running all the applications in Charlotte. Currently, they are using around 5 OCPUs of Oracle Cloud, which consists in WebLogic Server for OCI, Oracle Document Cloud Service, and Oracle Database Cloud Service. A new service for this company was launched in November 2020 called Kempo Plus and Basic, which enables electronic application to health insurance associations, and it uses Charlotte's foundation. Kempo Plus and Basic only took 2 months to develop and deploy. From development to planning and production, it was only taking 2 months. And according to Mr. Fumiyaki Kitano, this rapid service development and deployment was made possible because of the high productivity of WebLogic Server for OCI. With this, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this session. And if you have any doubt, please let me know on the chat.
Thanks, Adrian. It was good to see how customer benefited from WebLogic for OCI. In particular, the automation that comes with the WebLogic for OCI packages, like the Terraform stack and the pre-installed forms in the images for forms applications. Okay, for the last session, we have Monica to talk about running WebLogic workload in containers and the WebLogic Kubernetes toolkit. Over to you, Monica.
Hello, my name is Monica Riccelli, and I'm a WebLogic Server product manager. Today, I want to talk about modernizing WebLogic workloads into containers and running those containers in Kubernetes and the enhancements that we have provided to enable that kind of support. This is our safe harbor statement. This presentation doesn't represent a commitment to deliver any material, code, or functionality and should not be relied upon in making purchasing decisions. It's just of informative nature. The Oracle Enterprise Cloud Native Java is a family of products which include WebLogic Server, Coherence, Heladon microservices, and Verrazano. It enables our users to build and deploy containerized WebLogic applications that support Jakarta EE and Java EE, and run these traditional applications alongside microservices. So it provides a unified management across existing and new applications. We support multi-cloud once you have moved your traditional applications and developed new microservices running in Kubernetes. You can move these deployments from on-premise to the cloud. To enable modernization of your WebLogic deployments, we have developed a set of tools that we call the WebLogic Kubernetes toolkit. The toolkit comprises of the WebLogic Kubernetes operator. The operator manages the lifecycle of the WebLogic domain running in Kubernetes. The WebLogic Deploy tool enables our users to discover or introspect a domain and application that might be running in a virtual machine or a physical machine. Once the introspection has been completed, then we can move that same exact domain and application to run in Kubernetes. The WebLogic image tool allows us to build WebLogic and Fusion middleware infrastructure images. These images are built with the container best practices so that our images are as small as possible, and it allows for auto patching of the WebLogic and Fusion middleware infrastructure installation inside of the image. The WebLogic monitoring exporter exports WebLogic server runtime metrics to Prometheus that can be visualized in Grafana dashboards. We have developed a UI, which we call the WebLogic Toolkit UI. This UI leverages tools such as the operator, the WebLogic deploy tooling, the image tool, and the remote console to manage the entire life cycle of the WebLogic domain running in Kubernetes. We also have a new WebLogic remote console. The WebLogic remote console is a WebLogic console that allows you to monitor and configure your WebLogic domains and deployments from a local console that runs on your local desktop. All these tools, like I said before, are open sourced, and they are supported 24/7 with your existing WebLogic licenses. To secure our customers' WebLogic deployments, we have created WebLogic Server and Fusion middleware infrastructure images that contain installations of WebLogic patched with the latest patch set updates, CPU patches, and SPUs. In the Oracle Container Registry, you can find WebLogic Server 12.2.13, 12.2.14, and 14.1.1 images, as well as Fusion Middleware Infrastructure 12.2.13 and 12.2.14 images. These images have been pre-created with WebLogic installation and patched with the security patches that are released in a CPU cycle. Every quarter, we release updated images of WebLogic and Fusion Middleware Infrastructure. This enables our customers to just take these images from the Oracle Container Registry and ask the operator to apply them to running domains in a rolling fashion without any interruption of work. The WebLogic Kubernetes operator is a Kubernetes controller that helps us manage the life cycle of the WebLogic domain and applications running in Kubernetes. The operator can start and stop WebLogic servers, domains, and clusters, scale up or down a WebLogic domain, and apply updates, whether these be updates of binaries or updates of applications in a rolling fashion without interrupting ongoing work. The operator automates Kubernetes configuration, things like services, channels, and ports, making sure that it doesn't matter where the WebLogic server pods get scheduled in the Kubernetes cluster, they can always communicate with each other and with processes running outside of the Kubernetes cluster. The operator supports Kubernetes idioms, things like sidecars, init containers, custom resources, and resource management. In Operator 4.0, we have introduced enhancements, such as integration with horizontal pod autoscalers. The monitoring exporter can export WebLogic runtime metrics to Prometheus, and then a Prometheus adapter can send those metrics to HPA. You can write rules in the horizontal pod autoscaler. When those rules are met, HPA will increase or decrease the number of replicas of managed servers running in a WebLogic cluster. And then the operator, when it sees a change to the replicas, will start or stop WebLogic server pods to meet that replica count. We now can scale individual clusters in multi-cluster domains. We have enhanced and simplified the deployment of applications in model and image pattern by providing a very simple and straightforward way of creating auxiliary images, which include applications and configuration of that application, and then allow the operator to take that new application and configuration and apply it to the running domain. We now have new diagnostics, events, and statuses, which allow our users to diagnose and monitor their deployments in Kubernetes and make it very transparent for them to know how their deployments are doing. We improved our retry handling when there are errors and allow now to configure tolerations for the operator. We also support resource management for sidecars. The WebLogic monitoring exporter exports WebLogic runtime metrics from the managed servers to Prometheus. The operator now can inject the WebLogic monitoring exporter into sidecars to make exporting of the metrics simpler. The monitoring exporter now also supports filtering of these metrics. The WebLogic Remote Console is a WebLogic console that can be used to configure and monitor WebLogic domains. The Remote Console uses WebLogic Management REST APIs to communicate with the admin server for monitoring and configuration of the WebLogic domains. It supports multiple releases of WebLogic, all the 12C versions of WebLogic, 14.1.1, and any future release of WebLogic. The remote console runs locally on your desktop and not on the WebLogic server. This allows us to reduce WebLogic images size significantly. From one remote console, one can connect to many WebLogic domains, and it doesn't matter where that WebLogic domain is running. It could be running on virtual machines, it could be running on physical machines, in Kubernetes, in containers, or in the cloud. We have added enhancements to the latest version of the remote console. Our users can now customize tables and dashboards to only visualize those columns of their tables that they're interested in seeing. We support searches for any configuration object or monitoring object. We have added user and group management for embedded identity systems, added enhanced monitoring pages, and we persist searches and customizations so that if the user logs into the console once more, have access to those searches and customizations that they had created previously. The WebLogic Remote Console supports WebLogic deploy tooling models and variables. From a WebLogic Remote Console, you can use well-known and familiar pages to create and update your WDT models and variables. The WebLogic Kubernetes Toolkit UI is a user interface which facilitates the entire lifecycle of the WebLogic domain with the WebLogic Kubernetes operator or in Verrazano. The UI leverages tools such as the operator, the WebLogic image tool, the WebLogic deploy tooling, and the remote console to navigate from the time of introspection of a domain that might be running in a VM or in a physical machine. As a result of that introspection, there will be a model, a variables file, and an application archive that contains the application binaries. From the UI, you can edit these WDT models using remote console pages. You can add to your application archive libraries or other files that you need for deployment of your applications. You can prepare the model and you can validate it. So also allows you to create WebLogic images, whether those images be binary images of WebLogic or auxiliary images that contain the model, the application archive, and the WDT model. In the case where the user is deploying the WebLogic domain to a Kubernetes cluster with the operator, the UI allows you to provision the operator. It also provisions the WebLogic domain and provisions ingress. Enhancements that we have added to the UI are now we can support introspecting a domain that is running in a remote machine from the Toolkit UI. We integrate with remote console pages to edit and update WDT models. It supports affinity and anti-affinity Kubernetes rules so that you can determine where you want your WebLogic pods to run. And it supports both Kubernetes operator version 4.0 and 3.4. Following, I will do a demonstration of the integration between the WebLogic operator and the horizontal pod autoscaler. In my demo, the WebLogic monitoring exporter is exporting WebLogic runtime metrics to Prometheus. The Prometheus adapter sends those metrics to HPA. We create a rule in HPA, and when that rule is met, then HPA will do a scaling action by changing the number of replicas of the WebLogic cluster. As soon as the operator sees the number of replicas increase, it will start a new managed server pod inside of the WebLogic cluster. First, I want to show you the monitoring namespace. We have Prometheus running, and we also have the Prometheus adapter, which is the one that sends metrics to HPA, to the horizontal pod autoscaler. Now let's look at the WebLogic domain running in its own namespace. Here we have a WebLogic domain with one admin server and two managed servers inside of the cluster. So now let's take a look at the metrics that we are exporting. This is the configuration for the monitoring exporter. So we are exporting for the web app component, all these runtime metrics. The one that I'm especially interested in is a session open total count. And then we have some JVM runtime, some work managers, thread pool time, JMS runtime metrics, JDBC, and JTA runtime metrics, and then the persistent stores. So all these metrics are being exported to Prometheus. Prometheus is scraping them. We can take a look at that. So if we do WLS, let's look specifically the one that we are interested in, which is the web app open session total count. And we wanted for the specific web app that we have deployed to the WebLogic servers in the cluster. And let's look at the values. So right now, there are no sessions, neither in the managed server 1 nor managed server 2. So the next step is to look at the HPA rule that we are using. So the HPA rule that we have deployed, this rule is deployed to the namespace of the domain. You can see that we have that any scale down action or scale up action is going to take about 60 seconds to execute. And it's specifically to the cluster, right? And then we are looking at the total open session to the test web app, which is what we were looking at in Prometheus. So Prometheus is sending that metric to HPA. And when the average total count of open sessions reaches 5 or exceeds 5, there will be a scale-up action. And the HPA rule tells you what is the minimum number of pods that are going to be running in the cluster, and then what is the maximum. We can also look, the HPA looks right now, so we can see that it's on, the reference is on cluster 1, and the target is 5. So if it exceeds 5, the minimum number of pods, maximum number of pods, and number of replicas that are running right now is 2, which is consistent with what we see here. Now let's try to do some curls so that we can increase the number of open sessions on managed server 1 to about, I'll run it maybe 7 or 8 times. And that will cause that the rule gets triggered on HPA, and then the number of managed servers should be increased to 3. Okay, we've reached 5. Let's see, let's do a couple more curl commands. Okay, we've reached 6. That means that in about a minute, we'll see the replica counts go up, and we will see a third managed server started. There it goes. So the third server is just starting right now. We should see also the replicas here increase in the HPA. If you want to try this demo, we have a blog that goes through every single step that I have executed here to show you how to set it up and then how to run. Hope that has been useful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Monica. I can definitely see how the enhancement in the WebLogic Kubernetes toolkit will help with the migration of WebLogic to Kubernetes. And the demo really showcased the new horizontal pod auto scaling capability. So that's really great. Okay, that was the last session. I would just like to wrap up now. Thank you to all the speakers, and thank you all for attending this event. I hope everyone has learned something new today. We will send you the presentations and the recordings for the sessions afterwards. Do reach out to us if you want to find out more on any of the topics. Before we finish, I would just like to get your feedback on the event, so this will help us to improve. And I would also like to get an idea on your WebLogic Server strategy, so that we can get a better idea on where we should focus on product development. I'm going to put a couple of questions on the screen now. These are multiple choice questions. Please select the answers that is most appropriate to you.